Hey everyone! Tonight, I'm going to tell you a true crime story. In a gentle way. The room's already dim, and you're sinking into that pillow while the edges of the day blur. Outside, a late bus hushes past like a sigh. The window breathes out a small fog that fades as quickly as it forms. You can smell the quiet, dust warmed by a lamp, a trace of laundry soap from the blanket pulled up under your chin. Somewhere, a neighbor's wind chime taps two notes and goes still, like a heartbeat deciding to behave. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And if you feel like it, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now, because your night becomes part of this one. Now, turn off the lights, switch on a fan for a little white noise, and let's begin tonight's journey together. You step with me into a town that keeps its secrets the way cedar keeps the scent of rain. Tightly, stubbornly, and for a long time. You're on Main Street in Willow Creek, Oregon, a place with a single-screen theater that still sells paper tickets and a diner where the waitress knows that you take your coffee with one sugar and no small talk. It's September, back to school, back to routines, and the morning mist lies low over the river like a quilt someone forgot to fold. You move through it, feeling the cold kiss your cheeks, feeling the day hesitate. On the bulletin board by the post office, the flyers look ordinary at first. Garage sale, piano lessons, lost tabby cat with a torn left ear. But one sheet has corners that curl inward from too many staples and too many seasons. You smooth it with your fingertips, as if smoothing could erase time. A smiling woman beams up at you from sun-faded ink, the word missing frowning above her like a scold. Her name is Leigh Harper. She walked out of the Willow Creek Public Library on a Tuesday in 2003 and dissolved into the ordinary air. No footprints, no wallet abandoned in the bathroom. Just closed doors, an idle screensaver, and a chair angled slightly to the left as if she had turned to answer a question and then forgotten to come back. You stand in the library now, because everything starts there. The carpet muffles your steps. The fluorescent lights hum in a tired, insect way. The circulation desk looks exactly like it did in the photograph from the old newspaper clipping, down to the chipped rim on the pencil mug shaped like a trout. The librarian today, Miss Trent, folds her hands like envelopes. "We don't talk about that much," she murmurs. But she does talk. People always do when you let silence fill the shape of a question. She tells you Leigh shelved biographies and smiled with her mouth first, then her eyes, like a person deciding to trust you in stages. She tells you that Leigh always tucked her house key into the smallest pocket of her denim jacket, even inside the building, as if doors and locks belonged to the category of things that could always surprise you. She tells you that for weeks after Leigh vanished, someone kept returning books in the night. No new checkouts, just books reappearing as if they had wandered and found their way home by scent alone. That part is weird, and it clings to your sleeve like a cobweb. Outside, a delivery truck coughs and dies. Inside, the microfiche machine sits like a small spaceship from a museum exhibit you can touch. You slide the newspaper spool until the date kisses the frosted glass. The 23rd of September, 2003. A photograph, grainy, almost accidental, shows police tape strung across the library steps like a crooked smile, and Deputy Halvorsen squinting into a morning that has not learned how to be kind. You read the words, and they taste like dust. No evidence of foul play, no signs of struggle, phrases that mean we don't know, but we don't want to say we don't know. You walk the path Leigh might have walked, because your shoes know how to be curious. Past the war memorial, where the names are the same as on the mailboxes. Past the hardware store, where a bell on the door rings in a single, polite syllable. Past the river overlook, where teenagers still scratch initials into the railing and pretend the horizon will keep their promises for them. You breathe in wood smoke and that green, river-wet smell. You press your palms against the silver cold bar and look at the water sliding away like a long thought you can't quite finish. Here's a quiet, solid truth you carry with you. In 1998, the FBI formalized CODIS, the Combined DNA Index System, so that law enforcement could share DNA profiles across jurisdictions. You let that sit in your pocket like a stone, useful later, heavier than it looks. You also file away the strange detail. Miss, Trent mentioned, the books that came back with a faint smell she couldn't place, like peppermint gum chewed a little too long. Small things can point like arrows if you give them time. You find the diner because coffee is a kind of permission slip for hard stories. The waitress, Jan, curls her lip when you mention Lee's name, then softens it, then pours you a refill like a ritual. She was a whisper, Jan says, wiping a clean spot on a clean counter. Sweet, but like she was always running 10 minutes behind a life you couldn't see. You ask about the night returns, and Jan nods. Everybody said it was a prank, but the book drop never clicked during the day, always around 2 a.m. I live upstairs. I heard it the way you hear your own name in a crowd. She leans in. The first book they found was a biography of Amelia Earhart. She shrugs. People love circular stories. There's a municipal building 2 blocks down where records sit in long metal drawers that clank like teeth. You pull a file because it's there to be pulled. The original missing person report. Lee's last known outfit, jeans, a green t-shirt with a white stripe on the sleeve, and a denim jacket with a brass key on a red lanyard in the smallest pocket. A faint coffee stain on the corner of the page turns into an eclipse if you stare too long. The officer's notes use words like possible voluntary disappearance, as if vanishing could be a hobby like gardening or Pilates. You notice a name written in the margin in a different pen, S. Rourke. You roll it around in your mouth silently. Rourke. The R feels like a rumble you can't place. If you think the town is finished telling the story, it isn't. Towns never are. Willow Creek has a ritual that looks silly until it doesn't. On the first fog of September, the high school marching band plays down Main Street wearing rain ponchos. No audience, no applause, just a promise to keep time even when the sky doesn't. You stand in that fog now. The year is softer at its edges, and the drumline is muffled but steady. Your thoughts march, too. You think about how memory works, how a detail can sharpen each time it's told until it loses its original shape. There's an open debate among psychologists and legal scholars about whether repeated witness retellings help or harm accuracy. Some argue it consolidates memory traces. Others warn about reconstruction and suggestion. You taste that uncertainty like a lemon drop. Sharp, a little sweet, and not quite what you asked for. When the band fades, you visit the church at the hill where wax drips on brass like frozen tears. The pastor remembers lighting candles for no saint in particular. Some people like the idea of a quiet that listens, he says. You nod, because night listens too. You add to your list of the odd. The porch light at Lee's rental never burned out that fall. The landlord says he changed the bulb in October 2002, and somehow it glowed through the entire winter without a hiccup, which makes no sense for that fixture. Folklore collects around that detail like lint. Some say a miswired circuit. Others, a sign she was meant to be found. Your job isn't to choose. Your job is to walk and notice. And you do. You step into the sheriff's office and invent a reason to ask for archived incident logs. The receptionist is a knitter who counts stitches under her breath like spelling and tells you you'll have to wait. Waiting is a kind of weather, so you watch it roll in and out. When your turn arrives, you read line after line. Noise complaint, parking dispute, domestic disturbance resolved, suspicious person resolved, no report. Then, in September 2003, 2 weeks before Lee disappeared, report of trespass after hours at Willow Creek Public Library. Responded, Deputy S. Rourke. No evidence found. Doors secured. Your mouth makes a small, involuntary "oh." You picture a person inside a building designed for quiet, standing still between shelves that smell like glue and ink and hands, listening for footsteps that don't come. You track down Rourke because names have gravity. He's retired, sun-faded, and lives near the edge of town where the trees become an audience. He lets you sit on his porch. His dog snores in a way that forgives you for everything you haven't done. He says he doesn't remember much, but people always remember more than that. Night was clean, he begins, looking at the horizon as if reading from it. You can tell a dirty night sirens, kids showing off, radios too loud. That night was clean. I walked the stacks. The air was cool enough to make your teeth feel it. The book drop creaked. Twice. Nothing inside. He pauses. I did see a jacket on a chair back. Denim. Smelled like peppermint. You feel the arrow of that. Small things point. You remind yourself again. He shifts. This town ate the case with both hands, Rourke says, almost kindly. Folks brought casseroles like grief was a potluck. The mayor said to let it go, that she probably left. But you don't turn your chair that particular way if you're leaving. You ask what he means, and he shows you with his hands. A slight angle, as if protecting a window of air to step back into. You store the gesture in your mental pocket with the stone of Codis and the key on the red lanyard. Before you leave, he offers one more breadcrumb. In '04, he says, someone mailed the library a newspaper clipping. No note, just the story of a woman who solved crosswords in pen. The envelope had no return address, but the stamp was from Montana. You feel the map in your head shift, a road you didn't plan curving into view. Evening lays a long hand over Willow Creek, and you follow its fingers back to the river overlook, where the water keeps saying the same thing in a language you pretend not to understand. You stand where Lee might have stood. You try on her jacket in your mind. You tuck the brass key into your pocket. You check the time. You feel how a life can be, on schedule, and then suddenly, terribly free. Here's another simple, solid truth you cradle as the day exhales. The town hosted a harvest fair that weekend in 2003. The Ferris wheel stood where the community garden sits now, and kids glued popcorn to paper plates to make suns with uneven rays. A fairground is a place where everybody looks up at the same thing at the same time and agrees to believe not in gravity, but in bolts and laughter. You imagine lay there, or not there, because uncertainty is its own attendance. You go back to the library at closing because endings and openings share a door. Miss Trent turns the key with a soft clack. The lights blink like reluctant thoughts. You wait with her as she does the final walkthrough, the way firefighters tour a building after the flames are gone. The book drop yawns. You listen the way Jan did, feeling silly until you don't. The clock on the wall ticks in that determined way older clocks have, as if they're crossing the finish line over and over. 2 a.m. is hours away, but you already hear the future slide a book into a dark metal mouth. Your skin pricks, the way skin does when a thunderstorm miles off remembers your name. And in this quiet, you lay out your early map. A missing librarian. A town that keeps schedule even when it loses people. A denim jacket that smells like peppermint. A deputy whose memory curls at the edges like an old photograph. A key that waits, and a system Codis that will, one day, make strangers into answers and answers into stories. You also lay out the argument that still hums in the background of your mind like those lights. When we retell, do we clarify or do we rewrite? The experts don't agree. Tonight, you don't have to, either. You only have to walk and notice and be patient with the kind of silence that isn't empty, just full of possible doors. You step outside, and the night adjusts itself around you like a blanket someone shook out on the porch. Somewhere, a dog barks twice and stops. The wind chime hits a note and forgets it. The river keeps a secret, because that's what rivers do. You breathe in once, and you hold the town for another heartbeat. And then you let it go, because letting go is how we make room for the next piece to arrive at 2 a.m. with the shy clatter of a book finding its way home. You wake in the half-dream of a motel room that smells faintly of chlorine and rain. The fan hums like it's thinking, and the curtains move in soft agreement. You stretch, blink, and for a second, you forget which town you're in. The ceiling texture looks like islands drifting apart. You reach for your phone, no signal. Of course not. Willow Creek has always been a place that keeps its distance from the rest of the world. You pull on your shoes, still damp from last night's walk, and step outside. Morning is a pale thing here, uncertain. Mist curls around the lampposts, and the sky hasn't decided yet if it wants to rain. You follow your instincts to the old gas station at the edge of town. The attendant, an older man with a jaw that looks carved by habit, wipes his hands on a rag that used to be blue. His name tag says, Lyle. You ask him about the year 2003, about the librarian who vanished. He eyes you like someone who's been asked the same question too many times but still feels something about it. Lay? He says, finally. Yeah, I remember her. Drove a green Subaru. Used to stop here Fridays. Always bought a pack of peppermint gum and a bottle of Diet Dr. Pepper. You feel your chest tighten. Peppermint again. He nods to himself. We all thought she ran off with that teacher. What was his name? Rourke, the same as the deputy. They weren't related, though. At least that's what folks said. You jot that down in your mind. 2 Rourkes. Not related, but in a town this small, even names rhyme for a reason. You thank him, buy coffee that tastes like burnt secrets, and head toward the high school. The building hasn't changed much. Brick walls, the color of old pennies, banners from sports teams long graduated. You pass a trophy case with dust thick enough to write your initials in. Inside the office, a receptionist with silver hair and a pink sweater smiles at you. Her name is Mrs. Gordon. When you ask about the teacher, her smile doesn't falter, but her fingers pause on the keyboard. You mean Mr. Rourke, Samuel Rourke, English department. Left the same week, Lee disappeared. She glances around, lowers her voice. It wasn't a scandal, officially, but people whispered. You know how small towns are. You walk the halls, the smell of floor wax and chalk dust hanging in the air like nostalgia that refuses to fade. On a bulletin board, student poems from that year are still pinned up behind glass. One catches your eye. The river doesn't drown what it keeps. It just carries the echoes until they sleep. The author's name is S. Rourke. You feel a chill slide down your spine. Teachers sometimes publish under their students' initials to fill space, or maybe it's just coincidence. But coincidences have teeth in Willow Creek. At the Public Records Office, the clerk lets you access personnel archives because you say you're doing research. The file is thin, too thin for someone who worked there 5 years. Employment start date, 1998. Termination, the 25th of September, 2003. No forwarding address. The emergency contact section is blank. Attached to the file is a photocopy of an article from the Oregonian about Amelia Earhart's flight path, circled in red. You pocket that image in your mind. Amelia, Peppermint, and 2 Rourkes. Threads waiting for tension. That afternoon, you find yourself driving the winding road out of town, following the river. The trees grow thick and wet. Green has secrets. You spot a sign. Rourke Cabin Road, a private drive with a rusted chain across the entrance. You don't cross it. Not yet. Instead, you park by the shoulder and listen. The forest hums with insects and memory. A crow calls, and it sounds like laughter that forgot how to be kind. You think about something real, historical. In 2010, the FBI introduced the Next Generation Identification System, NGI, a massive biometric database that improved on CODIS by linking fingerprints, facial recognition, and even scars and tattoos. You imagine what that would have meant if it had existed in 2003. How many ghosts could have been named by now? You realize, somewhere in an evidence locker, there might be fingerprints on those returned books. So you go back to the library and ask Miss Trent whether anything was ever tested. She looks at you like you've just reopened a wound she's kept neatly bandaged. We sent them to the state lab, she says. Came back inconclusive. Said there wasn't enough material. But that was before the new tech. Before NGI. She hesitates, then lowers her voice. You can see the books if you want. We keep them in the basement. The basement smells of cardboard and mold, and something faintly sweet, like old gum. The lights flicker as you step down. Miss. Trent unlocks a metal cabinet and pulls out 3 books wrapped in plastic. Amelia Earhart, Courage is the Price, Leaves of Grass, and The Art of Disappearance. The last one makes your breath catch. You lean closer. Inside the cover of Leaves of Grass, a small slip of paper is stuck like a tongue between pages. You tease it free. A library due date card, the last stamped line reading the 16th of September 2003. And faintly, written in pencil beneath, "Not gone, just unseen." You glance at Miss Trent, but she's busy adjusting her glasses. You slip the thought into your head, where it glows uncomfortably. Later, at the motel, you pin the connections on the wall with sticky notes. Lee Harper Library, Peppermint Rourke, Montana envelope, Amelia Earhart, unseen. You stare until your vision blurs. The fan hums louder, or maybe it's your heart. You scroll through old news archives on your laptop, stealing Wi-Fi from the diner across the street. You find an article from 2019. Human remains found in Montana linked to unsolved disappearance via advanced DNA analysis. The photo shows a sheriff standing near a dried riverbed. CODIS match pending. No name released. You feel that invisible string tighten again. Montana. You exhale slowly. Night drops fast in Willow Creek. The streetlights flicker like nervous thoughts. You step out for air and end up walking back toward the library. The river's whisper follows you. You pass a mural of the town painted by high schoolers, everyone smiling, the colors slightly wrong. The library glows ahead, warm against the cold. Inside, the world feels smaller, quieter. Miss Trent's gone. The only sound is the ticking clock and the slow, rhythmic creak of the book drop. Once, twice, you freeze. It's 2:07 a.m. You step closer. A book lies halfway through the slot, wedged like it changed its mind. You pull it free. The Art of Disappearance. The same copy you saw downstairs. The seal is unbroken. The label faded. On the inside flap, written in neat, old-fashioned cursive, the key fits more than doors. You turn the book over, and a brass key falls into your palm. A small red thread still clings to it, the remains of a lanyard. You feel something in your stomach shift from curiosity to dread. You know you shouldn't be holding it, but curiosity, by now, is stronger than fear. Outside, the fog is back, heavy and deliberate. You walk to the edge of the parking lot, where the path leads toward the river overlook. The air smells like mint and rain. You grip the key tighter, its teeth biting your skin. The sound of the river grows louder, or maybe closer. You can't tell which. You think about the nature of disappearance, about what it means to be unseen. There's a psychological theory object, permanence, and its darker twin that suggests humans fear disappearance more than death itself. If something's unseen, it might still be there, waiting, watching. You whisper Lee's name, and it vanishes into the fog like a secret too shy to echo. You find yourself at the overlook, same as before. The railing's cold, the water restless. You hold the key up to the moonlight. Something glints, letters etched along the side. SR 98. You whisper the name. Samuel Rourke. 1998. The year he started at the school. You step back, heart drumming. What if she didn't vanish? What if she was hidden? What if the town's neatness, the casseroles, the polite silences, the old lights wasn't forgetfulness but cover? You recall Rourke's words. It was a clean night. Too clean, maybe. Back in your motel room, you search again, this time for property deeds. Rourke Cabin Road appears in county records, purchased 1998. Owner Samuel T. Rourke. You scroll further. Foreclosure notice in 2004. Property seized, never resold. The lot remains vacant. You close the laptop? Tomorrow, you'll go. Sleep doesn't come easy. The fan hums, the curtains move, and somewhere beneath the noise, you hear the faint metallic click of a key turning in a lock that doesn't exist. Morning finds you fog-drunk and determined. The drive out is rough gravel spitting under your tires, trees leaning in like gossiping witnesses. You stop where the chain blocks the road. The sign creaks in the wind. You step over it. The forest swallows you whole. Half a mile in, the path widens into a clearing. A cabin squats there, gray with rot. The windows fogged from the inside. You circle it slowly. The door's locked, but the key in your hand slides in like it's been waiting for this. You turn it and hear the soft sigh of hinges remembering how to move. The smell hits first dust, damp wood, peppermint gum. You step inside, On a small table sits a typewriter and a stack of papers yellowed at the edges. The first page reads, "To whoever still listens, not gone, just unseen." You exhale. Outside, the wind stirs the leaves, whispering something you can almost understand. You know this isn't the end, just the middle of the story's spiral. You stand in the doorway of the cabin, the air thick with the scent of mold and peppermint, as if the past itself has been preserved here in menthol and dust. The floorboards groan softly under your shoes. It feels like the place has been waiting not to be found, but to be remembered. A thin shaft of daylight filters through a crack in the shutters, turning the dust into slow-moving stars. The typewriter on the table is the old kind manual, heavy, built for permanence. Each key is a small iron tombstone. You sit down, brush the dust from the first page, and start to read. The words are typed in careful rhythm, every line punctuated with hesitation and hope. If you are reading this, you've found the truth no one else wanted to touch. Leigh Harper didn't vanish. She chose invisibility. And I, Samuel Rourke, helped her. You freeze. The name hits you like a whisper against your neck. You read on. She found something in the archives that night. A letter, an original from 1938, addressed to Amelia Earhart's sister, claiming Earhart survived on a small island under another name. Leigh wanted to prove it, to publish it, but the State Historical Society threatened legal action. They said the letter was stolen from a sealed collection. She called me, frantic. I told her to stay quiet, to wait it out, but she never listened when she believed she was right. Your pulse quickens. History's threads are tangling in your lap. Amelia Earhart, a real, factual figure whose disappearance has been debated for nearly a century. That's your historical truth tonight. But the strange thing, the tangent, the sideways detail is that in 2003, the U.S. Navy accidentally declassified several aerial photographs from the Pacific that some claimed showed remnants of her aircraft. Scholars still argue whether those images are authentic or illusions created by digital noise. Maybe Leigh saw one. Maybe she found more than she should. They followed her. The page continues. Or she thought they did. She said there were cars parked outside her apartment and men in gray coats near the library steps. Maybe she was right. Or maybe she'd just been awake too many nights. The word tilt. Rourke's sentences get shaky and uneven. She came to the cabin. She said she wanted to disappear until it was safe. I agreed to help her, brought food, mail, and books. She wrote her notes on index cards and told me to mail them to herself so the postmarks would prove the timeline later. But then one night she was gone. The door was locked from the inside, the key gone. Only the smell of peppermint was left behind. You stare at the typewriter, the ghost of the key heavy in your pocket. If she disappeared from inside a locked cabin, then how did the door relock? You turn your attention to the walls. Faded wallpaper, peeling at the seams. You run your fingers along it and feel an uneven bulge beneath. You tear a strip away, and behind it, there's another wall, wood paneling, older, with a small vent barely big enough for a child to crawl through. You kneel and shine your phone's flashlight inside. Dust, cobwebs, and a glint of something metallic deep within. You reach in, stretching, the wood biting your skin. Your fingers brush something smooth. You pull it free. A tin box, sealed with tape so old it peels off like paper. Inside, a roll of undeveloped 35mm film, a notebook, and a small cassette tape labeled WC Library, the 20th of September, 2003. Your heartbeat fills the cabin. You can't develop film here, but you flip through the notebook. The handwriting is small, patient, and deliberate. Leigh's voice unfolds in pencil. If I disappear, it's because I need to. The truth isn't missing. It's buried under paperwork. The town knows. The librarian knows. Even Rourke knows, though he pretends not to. The book drop is how I talk to myself without being seen. The words trail off mid-sentence. You turn to the cassette tape. There's an old player on the shelf. Its cord is frayed, but still attached to a generator. You press play. Static. Then the creak of a chair, a soft hum, someone breathing near the microphone. And then Lee's voice. Calm, low, almost tender. If you're hearing this, I'm probably gone by now. Not dead, just outside the frame. People think truth hides in evidence, but sometimes it hides in absence. The noise between the facts. You'll know it when you stop trying to prove it. A pause, then softer. The key opens the basement, not the cabins, the libraries. The tape clicks off. You sit perfectly still. The cabin holds its breath with you. Then you're up, pocketing the tape, running through the forest as if the trees are trying to catch you. The chain at the road rattles behind you, a sound like applause for your fear. By the time you reach town, the fog is lifting. The library looms ahead, closed, but you've never been good at waiting. You slip through the side door, key in hand. The basement door is unmarked, tucked behind the stacks. The brass key slides in with a soft, resigned sigh. The air below is colder than you expect. The lights flicker on, revealing rows of old filing cabinets, some labeled with years, others with blank tape. You walk slowly, flashlight in hand. The smell of paper and time fills your lungs. At the back, a single cabinet stands open, its drawers empty except one. Inside lies a manila folder labeled WC03, Confidential. You open it. Photographs. Dozens of them. All of the library. But the angles are wrong. Taken from corners, vents, and doorways. Surveillance shots. In one, Leigh is standing at the desk, smiling at someone just out of frame. Another shows her walking home at dusk. Another, she's inside the cabin, sitting by the typewriter. Someone took these. Someone who had access. You hear a soft noise behind you, a footstep, slow and deliberate. You turn, heart hammering, but the room is empty. The air feels different, though heavier. You pocket a few of the photos and back toward the stairs. You emerge into the library's main floor just as dawn slips through the windows. Miss Trent is there, unlocking the front door. She sees you and freezes. You shouldn't be down there, she says, too quickly. You hold up one of the photos, her, much younger, standing beside Leigh. You knew her, you say quietly. Miss Trent exhales, her shoulders folding. I was supposed to watch her, keep her safe until it was over, but she wanted to go public. I told her not to. And then, her voice cracks. She trusted the wrong person. You wait. She called Rourke that night, she says. He said he'd drive her to Portland. He didn't. He brought her here. He said she'd be safer if no one could find her. The air goes very still. She agreed? You ask. She didn't know what he meant. Outside, a siren wails in the distance, a sound too late to help anyone. You look at Miss Trent and realize she's been living with this truth folded neatly inside her for decades. When the state police reopen the case weeks later, they find human remains beneath the cabin floorboards. DNA confirms what everyone feared. But the fingerprints on the tape recorder, on the notebook, on the key, they belong to Samuel Rourke. They arrest him at his home in Montana, where he's been living quietly under another name. The news spreads fast. Cold case solved, arrest shocks community. Willow Creek tries to go back to sleep, but some towns never do. You stand once more by the river overlook. The brass key, now evidence, was replaced in your pocket by a single photo of Leigh smiling. The water below moves slowly, reflectively, and indifferently. The last mystery remains. Who returned the books years after her death? A prank, a haunting, a loyal friend? Scholars and skeptics debate it still, arguing about consciousness, coincidence, and the physics of memory. You let them. Some questions aren't meant to be solved. They're meant to echo. You breathe in, the air cool and mint sharp, and you whisper to the dark, she's not gone, just unseen. Now the story softens, like mist rolling back over the fields at dawn. You close your eyes, and the sound of the river becomes something else, gentler, slower, a pulse beneath the surface of sleep. The edges of Willow Creek blur, its buildings fading into watercolor outlines. The scent of peppermint lingers, but it is lighter now, more like a memory than a warning. You feel your heartbeat ease, sinking with the steady rhythm of water on stone. The cabin, the library, the long nights of wondering, they all start to dissolve, piece by piece. What remains is a quiet sense of balance, a weight lifted. You picture the typewriter still sitting on the table, a single blank sheet rolled into it, waiting for someone brave enough to begin again. You imagine Lee's voice drifting through the trees, not pleading anymore, just humming a tune too soft to name. The wind outside your own window sounds almost the same, doesn't it? A sigh against the glass, a whisper that tells you the world keeps moving, even when we stop searching. You pull the blanket higher, feel its warmth settle like calm over your shoulders. The story rests now, folded neatly like the last page of a letter never sent. Some truths come quietly, some never arrive. But here, in this still moment, that's all right. The night forgives, the river forgets, and you finally let go. Maybe someday we'll know the truth. But for now, sleep well.